Hello and welcome to a fantastic episode of Cracking the Rich Code, the podcast. My guest today, you're going to fall in love with. And I know I say things like that all the time, but let's face it, the people in the Cracking the Rich Code book series are just phenomenal. And today's guest is absolutely no exception. And you're like I said, you're going to fall in love with her. Her name is Stephanie Puryear Helling. She is a John Maxwell certified leadership coach and consultant. And her chapter appears in volume 20, and I love the title of this chapter and really makes me want to dig deep into where she's going with this. But her chapter is called The Moment That Redefined Me as a Leader. When life asked, can you survive? Can you survive this? So let me bring in my guest, Stephanie Puryear Helling. Stephanie, how are you today?
I'm great, John. How are you?
I'm doing terrific, and I'm so glad that you were able to join. We have tried to schedule this a few times over the past couple of months, and I know you wanted to wait until the volume 20 came out. But it was funny because when you first reached out, you hadn't even finished writing your chapter yet.
Nope.
You were so excited, and then you said, "Oh, maybe I should wait."
Yeah, maybe I should wait until the book actually comes out. So here we are, and I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't wait to finally get to chat with you. I think we had, some prior conversations in between as we were scheduling and rescheduling. And I said, I can't wait to actually sit down and talk with you. So I'm really glad that we got this scheduled.
Me too. Me too.
And the timing is pretty good because now we're here just as volume 20 is hitting the street as of the recording of this date. I know it was on the Kindle version is currently available, and the hard copies are going to press right now. And so we're very excited for this version to come out. And I've had the opportunity to interview several people from Volume 20, and this one looks like it's going to be one of the best ones yet.
Well, I am thrilled and so honored that Jim asked me to be a part of it and gave me the opportunity. And goodness gracious, the other authors that are included and, the endorsement by Tony Robbins, who could say no to that?
I know. Well, did you already know Jim, or was it one of these like calls out of the blue?
Well, we had connected probably on LinkedIn and social media, and we'd had a few sort of liked posts or messages back and forth. And then he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I really want to talk to you about this opportunity." And we finally got on the phone together in the fall, and here we are.
Wow. So what did you think when he asked you to be in something called Cracking the Rich Code?
Well, I wanted to learn more, right? So it piqued my interest. He spent some time, which I was thankful for, really describing his definition of what it means to be rich. And I'm so appreciative of that because when we think about living a rich life, often people immediately associate that with money, which makes sense, right? But when you think about your life being rich, the first word that comes to mind to me is significance. And so as Jim talked to me about cracking the rich code and what that meant, that really aligned with me. And I think we had been scheduled to have maybe a 30-minute conversation, and probably 2 hours in with, shared stories and talking about developing others and our passion for that. There we were. So it was a great opportunity to really get to know him better.
It's interesting. I've asked this question, not to every guest, but sometimes you just wonder what that conversation was like, depending on, where they're coming from in their careers or whatever. And I remember when Jim reached out to me, it was the same kind of thing. I'm thinking, I'm not one of these Wall Street, guru kind of people. That's not me. And in the conversation, we talked about richness in life. For me, it was having a fulfilled life, a happy life. And so I said, I could get behind that. So much so that I've been in 3 volumes so far.
Incredible.
And then ultimately wound up doing this just because I love this community so much and the people that are in it. So it's been a great, it was a good decision, I think.
Absolutely. Certainly one I will not regret.
So when you okay, so you started getting contacted by Jim originally on LinkedIn or whatever. What kinds of things, what were you doing at the time? Like, what do you know, what caught his eye?
That's a great question. Probably my focus is on human-centered leadership. And since I was a little girl, I have always been fascinated by what makes other people tick. And my teenager just got home. So if you're hearing the background noise, that's what it is.
That's quite all right, because that's
Yeah,
part of life.
that's
That's
part
part
of
of the
life,
enrichment and
real life.
fulfillment of life.
Exactly.
Yes.
I'm the mom of 3 boys. 2 are off the payroll. 1 is still with me. So, and I
Off
love
the
it.
payroll.
Yeah,
I
they're
like that
off the
expression.
payroll, self-sufficient. It's a beautiful thing.
I'm going to use that expression.
Yeah. So, it was really, I'm a huge believer in the universe. I am a faith-based person. So God, if you believe in God, but the universe, God, and timing all working together the way things are supposed to. And so when Jim reached out to me, I had recently finished the manuscript to my book, which is not out yet. It will be coming out in June, and we can touch on that later. But I had recently finished the manuscript, and it's been a labor of love for the last 5 years. It's a mixture of personal story, lessons on resilience, and then some workbook pieces. And so when he reached out to me, it just, again, it was like the universe was like, okay, it's
Yeah,
time.
this is the
Let's
time.
talk about this. And, I have spent a large portion of my career in the corporate world, leading others. And so again, I've been passionate about that since I was a little girl, learning about what makes other people tick, taking assessments, which I call myself an assessment geek because I love to use those not only for myself, but with clients. And I started off at a young age, mentoring others in a program called Peer Assistance and Leadership. So that's always been part of my path. But during COVID, I, got laid off from a 21-year career with a company that I absolutely loved and I still adore. And I'm so thankful for all of the opportunity that they gave me. And in hindsight, though, that was totally meant to happen because I'd had a few mentors talking to me for years, and I'd been speaking outside my company on stages, and I'd had a few mentors who were full-time speakers who'd been telling me, you need to go out on your own. You need to go out on your own. I was like, no, I'm happy exactly as it is, right? I get to do a little bit of this. I love my company. I'm comfortable.
And you have that trusted foundation of the regular paycheck in case this speaking thing doesn't work out, right?
Yeah. And so COVID happened and my position was eliminated and many other people as well. And, part of me was like, oh my gosh, this is the worst possible time for this to happen. But honestly, I think it was the best possible time for it to happen because the entire world, we were all going through upheaval and incredible change, right? The world looked different. We had to pivot. We had to do things differently. And so it really gave me an opportunity to be extremely thoughtful about what am I doing next? Now, certainly I could have gone to another company. There are many great companies out there. Several people reached out and talked to me. But I spent some time alone in my thoughts. I spent some time in meditation and prayer to really ask myself the big why question, Simon Sinek, right? And I said, okay, all the signs are pointing to it's now time to go out on your own and to add value to more people and to make a difference in more people's lives. And so when Jim reached out, the timing just couldn't have lined up better. Yeah.
It is truly amazing. And I like when Jim says sometimes and it's not maybe exact words, but he says when the universe gives you an opportunity, they don't necessarily check your calendar or your bank account.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of leap of faith going on there.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And look at what's come of all of this, right?
Yeah.
So the timing is great. So let's talk just a little bit about your career progression.
Sure.
and the kinds of things that you were doing. You talked a little bit about it, but how you ultimately became this coach now, not just doing speaking and doing some workshops here and there, but you're now actually, a full-blown coach
Mhm.
and consultant on, and I love human-centered leadership because that's where I'm coming from too.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for asking. So, again, my interest in what makes people tick and really helping and mentoring others is one of my natural interests, but also a strength. And I've been doing that sort of unofficially throughout portions of my life from an early age, teenager, college, et cetera. And the industry that I was in for many years was unplanned. So I was in multifamily real estate, and many of my clients are still in that space. But I walked into an apartment community when I was in college at UT. I was a psychology major and pre-med, and I was looking for a place to live in downtown Austin. And I walked out with an apartment home, but also with a job because they said, we need a leasing and sales professional here. And if you work here, you get to have this beautiful 2-story loft apartment for only $100 a month. I'm like, where do I sign up? Where do I
Woo!
sign up? And again, this was, a while back, but still, that was an incredible deal.
Sure.
And I thought this will just be a fun, temporary thing to do while I'm in school. I get a great place to live for a great deal. It's a fun opportunity to interact with people on a regular basis. And I got 47 leases my first month in the business, which is pretty good.
Wow.
And I still really thought then it was going to be this temporary bridge, if you will, to what my real job was going to be. And
And did you have an idea of what that real job would be at the time?
I thought I wanted to be a psychiatrist or psychologist.
Okay.
That was really my goal because, again, I have always been interested in what makes people
What
tick.
makes people tick?
I've sort of naturally counseled or coached people. I'm that person who people will come to and ask for advice, or I hear often and have heard often over my life, I've never told anyone this before,
Yeah.
but,
Mhm.
and that just was sort of one of my gifts or strengths or whatever, to help people. And so I really thought that was my path. And I just continued working in the multifamily real estate space and, got offered new roles and positions. And so moved from on-site roles, managing and leading apartment communities and teams, to a regional director of education and training. And that turned into a national role when the company that I worked for that was very regionalized, there was partnership across the country, and they realized that they really needed to be more on the same page. And so as part of the partners getting on the same page, they needed national structure. And so this opportunity came up for a national vice president of learning development. And I'd been doing some of that role unofficially, just taking the lead. So I'm a DISC consultant. And if you're familiar with DISC, I'm a DI. So a D is going to take charge when there's no one else in charge. And when I saw opportunities, I'm like, hey, this needs to be done. Let me do it. Hey, this needs to be done. Let me invite these people. And because I was naturally doing some of that, then when that role opened up, they said, hey, would you take this on? And I did. And I had that role for many years. I absolutely loved it. I led a national learning and development team. And then the last few years I was with that organization, which went from this smaller organization to the global leader in that space. So as I grew up and as I grew into different roles, the organization was also growing. So it was just a fantastic opportunity to really grow up with them. I was there for 21 years. And so the last several years that I was there, I was in a real estate strategic services role, which I like to call a professional cat herder. So I was the point person for
I know that role. Yeah.
all these different service departments, and kind of getting us on the same page, because as we grew, you have specialized departments, and unintentionally, sometimes silos are created where one department doesn't know what the other one is doing. And so I stepped into that role and to herd the cats, and it was a great opportunity. And I really, honestly, even with people telling me, hey, you should go out on your own, because they afforded me the opportunity to be a volunteer leader for a national association. I was the president of a board I spoke on different stages, and they afforded me the opportunity to do that. But I was so comfortable. I really thought I was going to retire there. And then again, COVID happened, the world changed. And, they had asked me to take on yet another new role, which historically I'd been thrilled every time they asked me to take on, a new undefined role. This time around, I wasn't really that thrilled because it was doing something that I'm not super passionate about, which was more like research and writing, which interestingly enough, I do enjoy that. And even the person who asked me that, she goes, "But you love that stuff." And I said, "Yeah, part of the time, but I don't want to spend 100% of the time doing, I'm a people
Your
person. Like
people
I have to
took the
touch
words out of my
people."
mouth. Yeah.
Yes. And so I had a hand in it. I mean, I could have just said yes. But at that point in my life and my career, I didn't refuse, but I made it pretty clear that I wasn't passionate about that. And so then, COVID happened and the layoff happened, and then the world opened up, opportunities for me really to find my path and where I truly feel I have the best opportunity to share my gifts and to help others. Right. And that's really my goal. I want to help others be more, see more, become more, own more of their unique gifts.
Yes.
And so many people need that. I mean, we all need that. I need it too.
Oh, there's so many people that don't even get, because they don't even realize the gifts that they have, that they don't get a chance to use them. And when that opportunity opens up, when they can finally see what they have to offer and they get to use that, it's a whole new world. Similarly, I was in a very technical field originally, and I was an electrical engineer.
Awesome.
And an electronics technician, and I was really good at my job. I was excellent at problem solving when there was issues going on in the production of electronic gear, and I can quickly find the problems and be able to fix everything. But I realized that I needed to be around people more. I needed more people skills. And so I wound up getting fired because I would go and first thing I would do is I start training the other people to recognize stuff that I'm finding.
Yeah.
And then how to do that. And then that, went into a casual chat. And next thing you know, I'm like, "Hey, you're holding people up because you're talking to them all the time." I'm like, "Yeah, but we're actually talking business."
Yeah, but I'm developing and elevating.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, ultimately I realized that I needed to be, with people more, and ultimately went into a whole new career field, into public affairs and public relations.
That's awesome.
But
it's interesting. Looking back at that, though, are you sometimes surprised that you were in a role where you didn't get to leverage your people skills? Does that ever surprise you looking back?
What's interesting, going back to when I was a kid in school, I was a little kid.
Yeah.
I was I was only 5'3", weighed 110 when I graduated high school. At 18. So I was picked on by bullies a lot. I was an extrovert forced to be in an introvert's body because when I drew attention to myself, I got beat up. And so when I went into technical fields, it kind of kept me a little bit in the safety margin.
Yeah.
But I really was desiring to interact with people. And actually how I came out of my shell was the disco era.
That's awesome.
I learned how to disco dance, and then
I was
unstoppable. Yeah, you're looking at the original John Revolting here.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, if there's any video, I want to see it.
Well, thankfully back then there wasn't a lot of video being taken. So yeah. There is somewhere some video from a cruise ship. I won a dance contest on a cruise ship. One of the professional dancers saw me dancing with someone else, and I did a disco lift with them, and she came running over. She was one of the professionals that do the stage shows, and she came running over. She goes, "You do lifts?" I said, "Yes." And she goes, "Would you be my partner in the dance competition?" Because they take the professionals and they pair them up with guests for kind of a silly competition later on in the cruise. And I was like, "Sure, why not?" And so there is video of that somewhere in existence. But
oh my gosh, that's awesome.
It's not on my YouTube channel. But anyway, it's amazing what helps us to come out of our shell, right? All of a sudden. And then all of a sudden we realize what our gifts are. And I realized that my gift wasn't necessarily my dancing. at the time, my gift was being able to teach other people some of these unique moves that I was creating and watching them shine. So I actually taught competition disco.
Wow.
And so people that I taught were learning for competitions. And so that was a very, very different time. And when I ultimately got into and I enjoyed writing and stuff like that and interacting with people. So I went into journalism and ultimately joined the Navy as a Navy journalist, and then went into public affairs and spent 42 years doing all of that stuff before I finally retired. But interestingly, when you talk about having that full-time job and then doing stuff on the side, like I was speaking and coaching and stuff on the side, and I did that for about 30 years on the side.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, I'm not ready to let go of the stable paycheck, right? But taking that leap is exactly like you said, a leap of faith. And sometimes the universe is saying it's time to do that.
Yeah.
And so when Jim reached out and offered this opportunity, and I was like, you know what, maybe it's time that I stopped writing in training manuals and things like that and finally, get out into the real world and branch out. And that's what gave me kind of the impetus to go ahead and push myself out on my own too.
That's awesome.
So,
yeah, because, and I think about it, like I've designed so much curriculum and, participant guides and, training guides for the facilitator and PowerPoints and all those things. And I knew I had at least one book in me, but there's something, and again, it's a mindset thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's a belief thing. Who am I to ... right? Who's going to want to
Who's going to listen to
read ...
me?
But I think, as I joined John Maxwell shortly after I started my business, and I had that aha moment, like, this is my purpose. And
so this is during COVID time, right?
During COVID.
That's when I joined.
Yeah. And
we were probably at the first virtual IMC together.
Oh, I did not. So it was after the virtual one. It was the end of 2021. So, but I got an email. It came across my page, and I'd known of John for a long time. And I actually have two friends who were in that same multifamily space that had left and actually gone to work within the Maxwell organization full time. So I was familiar, but somehow, I don't know. I guess I had gotten on an email list, but if I'd been on one, I didn't recall signing up. And I got a couple emails that came across. Again, the timing was perfect. I was like, okay, sure, why not? I'll get on a discovery call. And 30 minutes later, I'm like, sign me up. And then after my certification at the following March, then I joined mentorship. The following March, I joined the executive director program. I'm also a Live to Lead host. So I'm like all in. But John talks about, us really recognizing our gifts and the value that each of us truly have to offer others and the world. I firmly believe that's why we're all here. Every single one of us has a unique
has a value. Yes. And we all make a difference. And
well, and when you share your story, when you share your story, you are helping the former version of you. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
that's why my business is called Share Your Fire.
Love it.
And my business and my podcast is called Share Your Fire. So yeah, it's all for the same thing. We are so much alike, Stephanie. This is great.
We are. So I have a podcast
I just
as well.
realized we're getting tight on time. So hey, folks, if you have kind of tuned into this late, go back and watch this from the beginning. I tell people that all the time. But Stephanie has been laying out some real gold here, and you definitely want to listen to her entire interview. But we want to learn more about Stephanie's podcast and about her upcoming book. And so go ahead and tell us about what you're doing.
Sure. So I also have a podcast. It's called You Deserve More. And we all do, right? It's on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all the things. And I've interviewed a handful of celebrities, business leaders, leaders from the multifamily space who have been inducted into what we call the Hall of Fame, or who have been Lifetime Achievement Award winners. And it's a really great opportunity to listen to different leaders and their personal stories, not only professional, but their personal stories, their paths, how they've developed resilience, how they have both managed and led change, but how they've navigated change in their own lives, and leadership lessons from all levels. And I talked a little bit about my layoff, right? And how I kind of got to the point that I'm in now, but my chapter in Cracking the Rich Code, and then my upcoming book, She Doesn't Shrink, 21 Ways and 21 Ways to Strengthen Your Resiliency Muscle, was really written as a result of going through many major life changes, the layoff being sort of the last one. And you can read more about that in the book. But big life changes that many of us have had to go through: divorce, a family member having cancer, a family member, passing away, death in the family, mental health challenges of family members, things like that. And so I had a series of these types of life changes happen in a very short period of time. And friends, family members, coworkers kept asking me, like, how are you surviving this? How are you getting through this? And, I'm human too. And so when we go through those big life moments, it is emotional, right? And we should give ourselves grace and feel the emotions. But at the end of that, once you've felt the emotions and allowed it to come out, you really have two choices. You can stay in that pit and feel sorry for yourself, which you end up reliving that over and over. And, honestly, no one would really blame you for it. But what are you choosing to do to yourself? Or you can look for the lesson and say, okay, where am I going to go from here? And how can I use this to be better? And so that's really the kind of the premise of my chapter. And then my book, I share some of those personal experiences in hopes that it will help others. So, what I went through, how I got through it, what are the things that worked for me to get me out of that pit and beyond. And that includes a workbook at the end of each chapter, so people can really apply those lessons to their own lives.
Perfect. And I think that's what, why we get into books like these, like the compilation books, like the Cracking the Rich Code and other books like that. I mean, we all know we don't do that for money. You don't do that. You do that to reach audiences and reach people that you haven't met yet.
Yes.
And so that you can make a difference for people that are outside of your immediate sphere. And that's why we do these things. And people always ask, John, why are you, in so many books, especially ones like compilation books where you're not getting any royalties. Sure. One of the books, it's 365 days of quotes. Well, there's 365 authors in the darn thing. How are you going to split royalties that way? You can't get tiny pieces of penny. But it's not about that. It is about the opportunity to reach people and to make a difference for people.
Absolutely.
And Stephanie, you've got a big heart, and I'm so glad that we had a chance to talk and to get to know each other. And I see some stuff in the future for us together.
I would love that. Well, when you mentioned that you had the resiliency book, and I was a year late for that.
Just a little bit late. Just
maybe
a little bit late on that one.
There's another one in there somewhere.
There's other ones coming down the road. Yeah, absolutely. So there's lots of opportunities. But the thing is, we're out there any way that we can, making a difference for people, whether it is whether we just share a smile, or we share some advice or some perception or our own story of what we've dealt with and how we came through it, and whatever we can to light that spark in another individual. That's what makes all the difference in the world. 100%. We have had a fantastic conversation with Stephanie Puryear Helling. She is a John Maxwell certified leadership coach and consultant, and just absolutely just a very warm-hearted individual who's out there making a difference and helping people to lead from their heart, which makes a huge difference in how people interact with each other.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where we are in the world right now. We need to learn how to interact with each other with more compassion and more heart and more understanding. And we find that, kindness is not a weakness. Kindness is a strength. And so when we get out there and we learn how to lead from kindness, lead from a position of heart, we can make that much more of a difference, and our people become more motivated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the world needs more love.